So therefore, Devuti's lamentation has a lot of relevance to sadhakas. If if the essence of Devuti's lamentation is not understood as a warning for all of us, then we have really not understood what it means to be serious in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, Devuti's lamentation is of great significance to all of us as sadhakas. These lamentations of Devahuti should be very carefully studied. We should carefully try to understand the essence of her lamentation. It should not be dismissed as lamentation of a woman for her husband. This is the lamentation of the conditioned soul for the mercy of the spiritual master. And such lamentation delivers the conditioned soul. Such lamentation gives Krishna. We see our great acharyas lamenting like this. Krishna se tamar, Krishna dite par, tamar sakatyache. Amito kangal, Krishna Krishna boli, dahi tava pache pache. So they are singing for our instruction that if we don't have Krishna consciousness, if we don't take that opportunity of becoming Krishna conscious seriously, that means we are kangal. We may think, oh, I am having so nice facility, I am having so nice name, fame, I have so nice position within the movement. We may think so many things. But if we do not utilize everything to become Krishna conscious, to try to chant the Siddhavana, to try to avoid offenses, to try to come out of the lower modes, to try to situate ourselves in mode of goodness. If we don't make sincere try, if we don't take Krishna consciousness seriously in our life, that's a kangalu. Kangalu. We have nothing. And at one point, this lamentation will become reality for us. To also lament. So intelligence is to learn from others' experience. So Devati is kindly sharing her experience. She is opening her heart. She is lamenting for our benefit. So therefore, Devati's lamentation should be taken very seriously by sadhaka, so that they don't lament. We should take it very seriously. We should analyze it very nicely. We should take her instructions to heart, so that we also don't become victim of the same illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which solidly cheated Devati. And then, just another wasted opportunity. Okay. So, when Devahuti spoke such words of renunciation, such words of realization, Kardama was very pleased with her. Kardama wanted to see this from Devahuti. That's why he told her that I am going away. Because he wanted to shake her out of her stupor. This mechanical life in Krishna consciousness is like a stupor. And mechanically, we do things without consciousness. Okay, I have to get up in the morning. Okay, I have to chant around. Okay, night. Okay, go sleep. Stop. This mechanical life in Krishna consciousness, like a stupor. So, Kardama wanted to shake her. He wanted to shake her and wake her up. So therefore, Kardama told her, I'm going. And then shook her. The reality was staring in front of her. And the reality, when it was staring in front of her, then she woke up. And she spoke very nice words of renunciation. And when Kardama spoke, when Devaki spoke like this, Kardama was very pleased. So, when the disciple laments, then the spiritual master becomes very pleased. The disciple is feeling, everything is all right, Gurudev, Pakka, perfect, life is good in Krishna consciousness. Then Gurudev is thinking, what happens to this guy? But when the disciple is lamenting from his heart, then spiritual master gets very pleased. Because in this material world, there is enough and more reason to lament, including the reason of accepting a material body. So, therefore, he became very pleased, and he gave her the benediction that the Supreme Personality of Godhead could shortly enter the room as his son. He gave her the benediction. And he is telling her that you please worship the Lord with great faith, with sense control, religious observance, austerities, and gift of your money in charity. So she saw a lot of opulence. The amount of opulence which Kardama showed by his yogic power was far greater than the opulence she had experienced in her father's house. So she had such an opulence in her disposal. And now Kardama is telling, just give it away. Just give it away. Just give it away. Okay. Prabhupada is writing, nice purpose. Please read.
In order to spiritually advance or to achieve the mercy of the Lord, one must be self-controlled in the following manner. He must be restrained in sense gratification and must follow the rules and regulations of religion. Without austerity and penance and without sacrificing one's riches, one cannot achieve the mercy of the Supreme Lord.
See, without austerity, penance, without sacrificing one's riches, one cannot receive the mercy of the Supreme Lord. These things have to be given up. Janma, Aishwarya, Shuta, Shri, everything has to be given up in Krishna's service. And when it is given up, when we become akinchana, then we can get Krishna's mercy. As long as we are attached to this process of getting some nice birth, nice facility, great name and fame, position, power, or great opulence, Krishna will not be there. So, Patimarani also warned us. So, he will vanquish the knot in your heart by becoming your son and teaching the knowledge of Brahman. Will cut. Hridaya Granthi Vedanam, Karma Granthi, Nibandhana, Vidyate Hridaya Granthi. So many places, in different ways, it is explained in Bhagavatam that the knot in the heart has to be cut. Yad anudhyasineta karma granthi nibandhanam chindanti kaudastasmai konakuryat bharati. So, here, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is giving Devhuti the natural opportunity to engage in devotional service or to get attached to Krishna, because he herself is going to become her son, Kapila. And we can see at the end of the canto that she was so much attached to it, always thinking of it. This way, she achieved perfection. Okay, this is purpose.
When the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes to disseminate spiritual knowledge for the benefit of all people, he generally descends as the son of a devotee, being pleased by the devotee's devotion service. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the father of everyone. Therefore, no one is his father, but by his inconceivable energy, he accepts some of the devotees as his parents and descendants. It is explained here that spiritual knowledge vanquishes the knot of the heart. Matter and spirit are knotted by false ego. This identification of oneself with matter, which is called Hridaya Granthi, exists for all conditioned souls, and it becomes more and more tightened when there is too much affection for sex life. The explanation was given by Lord Rishabdev to his sons that this material world is an atmosphere of attraction between male and female. That attraction takes the shape of a knot in the heart, and by material affection it becomes still more tight. It is only by Brahma Bhavana, the instruction by which spiritual knowledge is enhanced, that the knot in the heart is cut to pieces. No material weapon is needed to cut this knot, but it requires bona fide spiritual instruction.
So, Prabhupada explains that there is one knot and two knots. When there is attachment between two living entities, it's two knots. But when there is attachment for a living entity to the metal facility, it is one knot. So, we should cut this knot of metal attachment. Ashanga Shastrena Dridena Chitva, said in 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Asvattamenam Sugrudhamulam Asanga Shastrena Dridena Chitva. Human form of life is meant for this. To cut this knot in the heart, not to make more and more knots in the heart. Whatever knot in the heart is there, should be cut off. It is applicable for everybody, for brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, sannyasi. All of them are meant to do this. They are meant to live a life in a manner that actually cuts off this knot in the heart. So then he instructed that she should perform devotional service. And she took the instructions very seriously. And she started performing devotional service. Okay.
Kardava Muni was Devuti's husband, but because he instructed her on how to achieve spiritual perfection, he naturally became her spiritual master also. There are many instances wherein the husband becomes the spiritual master. A husband should be so enlightened that he should become the spiritual master of his wife in order to enlighten her in the advancement of Krishna consciousness. Generally, Stree or woman is less intelligent than man. Therefore, if the husband is intelligent enough, the woman gets the great opportunity for spiritual enlightenment. Here it is clearly said, Samyak Shraddhaya, that with great faith one should receive knowledge from the spiritual master. And with great faith, execute the performance of service.
Yeah, it's very important. Shraddha means unbroken faith. It's very, very important. Shraddha means that we should have unbroken faith in the words of the Acharya, in the words of the spiritual master, in the words of the Shastras. We should have unbroken faith. We should not think, okay, this is possible, this is not possible, this instruction is okay, this instruction is not okay, this is not very good, this is very good. We should not discriminate between the instructions. We should have unbroken faith. Unbroken faith in the word of the spiritual master, the directions of the Shastra, which is the unbroken faith. So that's called Shraddha. Here it is explained as Samyak Shraddhaya. So when such faith is placed, then it is very conducive for spiritual advancement. Okay, please continue.
Atma Maya. And how does he appear? He appears when pleased by the worship of a devotee. A devotee may ask the Lord to appear as her son. The Lord is already sitting within the heart. And if he comes out from the body of a devotee, it does not mean that the particular woman becomes his mother in the material sense. He is always there. But in order to please his devotee, he appears as her son.
So then, after many, many years of austerity, then the Lord appeared. Okay. You read.
Fire is already present in wood, but by a certain process, fire is kindled. Similarly, God is all-pervading. He is everywhere, and since he may come out from everything, he appeared in his devotee's semen. Just as an ordinary living entity takes his birth by taking shelter of the semen of a certain living entity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead accepts the shelter of the semen of his devotee and comes out as his son. This manifests his full independence to act in any way, and it does not mean that he is an ordinary living entity, forced to take birth in a certain type of womb. Lord Narasimha appeared from the pillar of Hiranyakashipu's palace Lord Varaha appeared from the nostril of Brahma, and Lord Kapila appeared from the semen of Kardama. But this does not mean that the nostril of Brahma, or the pillar of Hiranyakashipu's palace, or the semen of Kardama Muni is the source of the appearance of the Lord. The word Kardamam is significant, for it indicates that the Lord had some devotional affection or relationship in devotional service with Kardama and Devhuti. But we should not mistakenly understand that he was born just like an ordinary living entity from the semen of Kardam Muni in the womb of Devhuti.
So therefore, Krishna says, Janma karma chami divyam, evam yo vedi tattataha, ekvadeham pumarjanma, naiti mameti swarjuna. He's saying very clearly that the secret of Krishna's transcendental nature, in spite of his pastime of appearance and disappearance, this should be clearly understood. In order to show his supremacy, the Lord also breaks all types of rules of the material universe in his, especially in the matter of appearance. Sometimes he appears from temple, from the pillar. Sometimes he appears from nostril. Sometimes he appears from semen. Sometimes he appears from the process of diksha. So, according to his will, he makes an appearance. Nobody can control how he can appear. But the conditioned soul is fully controlled in the matter of how the conditioned soul can appear. So he has some limitations that he has to appear only in a certain form, in a certain way, in a certain method, for a certain amount of, for a certain parents. All this is fixed for the conditioned soul. But in case of the Lord himself chooses his parents. Just like he told Kardama that, okay, you marry Devhuti, I will appear for you. He told her. And then he appeared like that. He appeared for Devhuti. He himself chose, okay, you become my father. Let her become my mother. Like that he himself chose. Or sometimes he appears according to his wish from various places. He appears. So this clearly shows the transcendental nature of the Lord's appearance. And by such transcendental nature, the Lord shows that he is not a conditioned soul. He is not forced to appear according to the dictation of Maya. But in our case, we are forced to appear according to the dictation of Maya. That we cannot say, okay, this is how I want to appear. I will appear like this one. We cannot say all those things. We have to simply accept whatever body is given to us in whatever shape, form, according to our previous karma, we have to accept. Lord is not like that. Okay. So then, whenever the Lord appears, then there is a lot of happiness everywhere. Everybody becomes very pleased. And here, Brahma, he himself came to receive the Supreme Lord when the Lord appeared. And then there is all the big sages and Brahma, all of them are coming there. Okay. And they knew that the Lord is going to speak the system of Sankhya philosophy. They knew. Okay, please read.
There is an imitation Kapila who has a Sankhya philosophical system. But Kapila, the incarnation of God, is different from that Kapila. Kapila, the son of Kardama Muni, in his system of Sankhya philosophy, very explicitly explained not only the material world but also the spiritual world. It is called Swarat because he did not go to any school or college to learn, but learned everything from within. Another name for Suddha Sattva is Vasudeva, because God is born from Vasudeva. Another meaning is that when one is purely situated in the qualities of goodness, he can understand the form, name, quality, paraphernalia, and entourage of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The word Amshena also indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, appeared as Kapil Dev in a portion of his portion. God expands neither as Kala either as Kala or as Amsha.
Kala, not Kala, Kala.
Kala. Either as Kala or Amsha. Amsha means direct
Either as
expansion.
Kala, sure. Yeah. Read.
Amsa means direct expansion, and Kala means expansion of the expansion. There is no difference between the expansion of the expansion, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. As there is no difference between one candle and another, but still the candle from which the others are lit is called the original. Krishna is therefore called the Parabrahman, or the ultimate Godhead, and cause of all causes.
So all Vishnu Tattvas, they are, according to Tattva, they are all equal. But in the rasa, there is some Veda, there is some difference. Relationships, what we can have with them, there is some difference. But according to Tattva, they are all same, and they eternally exist. Still, according to the scripture, Krishna is understood as the source or the original personality of Godhead. And this is confirmed in many scriptures, also in Bhagavatam. Krishna's tu, Bhagavan, Swayam. You have seen that. The importance of the word tu. It's nicely explained that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So here it is said that there is an imitation Kapila who spoke godless Sankhya philosophy. The godless Sankhya philosophy considers Pradhana as the source of everything. And then, according to the godless Sankhya philosophy, then there is Purusha, who is the Jiva, and Prakriti, which has these 24 elements, and then the time factor. When the time factor is there, in the beginning of creation, and the Prakriti and Purusha, due to their proximity, when they exchange influences on each other, then the creation takes place. There is no specific reason except the random proximity of Prakriti and Purusha. There is no specific reason why the creation should take place. And when the Purusha or the Jiva, when he starts studying his own nature against the nature of the material body, then by analysis, he can actually understand that he is different from the 24 elements. He is different from the 24 elements. And when he understands by analysis that he is different from the 24 elements and stops relating with the quality of the 24 elements, then that is called liberation. This is godless Sankhya. It's a crazy philosophy. But modern scientists, they are very close to this thinking of Sankhya philosophy. Of course, Sankhya is more sophisticated than modern science because it has very sophisticated explanation of why there is creation, why there is destruction, why there is birth, why there is rebirth, how time functions, how the controlling deities function. All this is explained in Sankhya philosophy. But they don't accept that there is Supreme Personality of Godhead. The creation is intelligent. It has a specific reason, and it is a manifestation of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. All these things they don't accept. The atheistic Sankhyavadis don't accept. But in Kapila Sankhya, all these things are explained. The Jiva is explained as the 25th element, and the Ishvara explained as the 26th element. And the supremacy of Ishvara over both his energies, Jiva and Prakriti, is clearly explained in the Sankhya philosophy. Of course, you study it. Okay.
Some of the good sentiments of devotees.
So when the Lord is there, then all of them worship him with nice sentiments. So Brahma, especially Brahma, is speaking to his son Kardama, who has done very well. He's saying, "My dear Kardama, since you have accepted my instruction without duplicity, showing them proper respect, you worship me properly. Whatever instruction you took from me, you have carried out, thereby you honored me." So worshipping the spiritual master means carrying out his instruction. Of course, there's also the physical worship of the spiritual master when we do Guru Puja. But the actual worship and honoring of the spiritual master simply means carrying out his instructions. Now we understand that why Kardama wanted to marry, why Kardama pleased the Supreme Lord, and then presented himself as a very opportunistic person, very materialistic person who wants to enjoy sense gratification, who wants to get married, because Brahma ordered him that he should get married. And when Kardama thought that if I have to marry, then why not please the Supreme Lord, then make my marriage as part of his plan, not my plan for sense gratification, or my plan for expansion of family, or my plan for my position as Prajapati. Simply, why not make it part of his plan? This is a very important thing, a very important approach that we should take. We should learn from Kardama. That whatever is assigned to us, whatever task is assigned to us, we should not do this task with separatist mentality. That, oh, what is there for me in this? What can I get out of this? What mileage can I draw from this? No. The task, whatever is given to us, we should do it in a mood that it becomes part of the plan of the institution or the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we see that this is what is important. That's how Kardama wanted to get married. Okay, please read.
A conditioned soul in the material world has the disqualification of cheating. He has 4 disqualifications. He is sure to commit mistakes. He is sure to be illusioned. He is prone to cheat others, and his senses are imperfect. But if one carries out the order of the spiritual master by disciplic succession or the parampara system, he overcomes the 4 defects. Therefore, knowledge received from the bona fide spiritual master is not cheating. Any other knowledge which is manufactured by the conditioned soul is cheating only. To honor the spiritual master means to carry out his instructions word for word.
Yeah, so Prabhu says, in toto, Brahma praises Kardama because he carried out the orders of the spiritual master in toto, without cheating. It should be carried out in toto. We should not take the favorable part of the order, whichever you like, and then only execute that. And whatever we find unfavorable, it's very difficult to execute. Okay, chod go. Should not be like that. Everything should be executed. Yes, Ashimata.
Prabhuji, I had a question, just going back to the previous verse.
Yes.
In the Bhagavad Gita also, Prabhupada comments in that verse, Advaita Sankhya, where he talks about the 3 systems of Sankhya, atheistic, Kapil Devs, and Krishna Sankhya. So, although they were the followers of Vasudeva, all this Shaddarshan,
Yeah.
how can we understand that these disciples of Vasudeva or followers of Vasudeva, they have given a atheistic explanation in those their writings and
Not
understanding?
necessarily all of them are followers of Vasudeva. Some of them are Vasudeva disciples, some of them are not. That's a different story. But the point is that this is explained in Bhagavatam itself. It says that Muhyanti et Surayaha, great philosophers are bewildered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because when they do not want to surrender and when they actually read the Vedic literature without this mood of surrender, and when they do not want to search out the Supreme Lord within the expressions of the Upanishads, and they do not want to do it, then the Lord actually cheats them. They become victim of the same illusory energy. And then they come to all these great conclusions and then present all these conclusions, thinking that, oh, they found the conclusion of Vedas. Then the Lord, as Vyasudeva, breaks those conclusions by explaining the Vedanta Sutra. And then the Lord's devotee, he comes as Shankara, and then he twists the conclusion of Vedanta Sutra itself. And then again the devotees of the Lord come, and then they re-establish the conclusion of Vedanta Sutra properly. So this is because different conditioned souls have different inclinations, and they have different interests which are away from the interest of the Supreme Lord. So in order to, because of that interest, then they come to these wrong conclusions. Of course, Kapila himself specifically discusses this. He calls it as Vinadrit. Vinadrit means that one who has a vision which is different from the vision of the Supreme Lord or the spiritual master. Of course, you will see when Kapila actually describes the devotional service in three modes. He will call them as Vinadrit. Those who are seeing, those who have an independent vision, which is not matching with the vision of the Shastra. Guru Sadhu Shastra's vision is not matching. The other point is that Krishna is not speaking any Sankhya philosophy in Bhagavad Gita when that Esahi Bheda Sankhya. Sankhya means analytical study. He uses the word Sankhya in terms of analytically studying the nature of the soul. He is not using the word in the sense of that is a philosophy. Prabhupada actually explains that elaborately in the purport, that it's not a philosophy. It's just the word is utilized in terms of analytically studying the nature of the spirit soul and the nature of the body. That's what he says. But there is the brief description of Sankhya philosophy, proper Sankhya philosophy in Bhagavad Gita is there. Prakritim Purusham Chaiva Vidyanadi Ubhavapi, that shloka that actually explains the Sankhya philosophy, but it actually explains the proper Sankhya. So that doesn't explain the atheistic Sankhya. Vikaram Shagunam Seva Karanam Prakriti Sambhavan. And then Purusha Prakriti Stohi Gunte Prakriti Jangunan Karanam Gunasangosya Sadasatyam Janmasu. These are all explanations of Sankhya philosophy. There's there in Bhagavad Gita also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, please read.
One should obey the command of his father or spiritual master with due deference, saying, "Yes, sir." Purport. The son or disciple should accept the words of his spiritual master and father without hesitation. Whatever the father and the spiritual master order should be taken without argument. Yes. There should be no instance in which the disciple or the son says, "This is not correct, I cannot carry it out." When he says that, he is fallen. Sometimes the father and the spiritual master may be the same man, and sometimes they are different men. There should be no argument. That is real service to the father and to the spiritual master. As a man cannot separate his life from his body, a disciple cannot separate the order of the spiritual master from his life. One may be materially considered an illiterate man, but if he has faith in the spiritual master as well as in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the meaning of scriptural revelation is immediately manifested before him.
Yeah, so this is the way to read Shastra. Sometimes people think that Shastra can be intellectually understood. Shastra cannot be intellectually understood. Reading Bhagavatam, reading Bhagavad Gita is not an intellectual exercise or even a philosophical exercise. It is simply an exhibition of faith, that one should have faith in the spiritual master. One should have faith in the scripture itself. One should have faith in Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when one has faith, according to the level of one's faith, then the scripture will reveal itself. Yasa deve parabhaktir, yata deve tata guru, yasaihi katitaha prakashante mahatmanaha. Said, Prabhu is paraphrasing that. So therefore, one should have faith. That is the tool. Faith is the tool to read scripture and to realize the scripture. One should have unbroken faith in the words of the spiritual master, in Guru Sadhu Shastra. One should have unbroken faith. Then everything works. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. And Prabhupada gives very nice analogy here. The disciple cannot separate the order of the spiritual master from his life. That's a very important message for us to meditate upon. That the order of the spiritual master, it should be taken very seriously because that constitutes the life of the disciple. should be understood. Should not think, oh, this is all for some great devotees. For all of us. For all of us. Because all of us are meant to become great devotees. So it's for all of us. We should take it. We should consider that these instructions should be taken seriously. And we should consider that how to make this practical. Rather than thinking, oh, yes, अब दूसरों के लिए है, उसको हम choice में छोड़ देंगे. It's not think like that. Okay.
The word Sumadhyama means a good daughter of a beautiful woman. If she has a thin waist, a woman is considered very beautiful. All the daughters of Kardamuni were of the same beautiful feature.
So all the daughters, they were all married to the great sages. Okay. Please read.
Here two words are used very significantly. Yata Shilam, Yata Ruchi. The daughter should be handed over to the respective rishis, not blindly, but according to the combination of character and taste. That is the art of combining a man and woman. Man and woman should not be united simply on the consideration of sex life. There are many other considerations, especially character and taste. The taste and character differ between the man and woman, their combination will be unhappy. This was done under the direction of the respective parents. The parents used to astrologically determine the character and taste of the boy and girl, and when they corresponded, the match was selected. The girl and this girl and this boy are just suitable and they should be married. Other considerations were less important.
Yeah, so the matching of character and taste is very important.
A girl of godly quality should be handed over to a boy of godly quality. A girl of demonic quality should be handed over to a boy of demonic quality. Then they will be happy. But if the girl is demonic and the boy is godly, then the combination is incompatible. They cannot be happy in such a marriage. At the present moment, because boys and girls are not married according to the quality and character, most marriages are unhappy and there is divorce. It is foretold in the 12th canto of the Bhagavatam that in this age of Kali, married life will be accepted on the consideration of sex life only. When the boy and girl are pleased in sex, they get married, and when there is deficiency in sex, they separate. That is not actual marriage, but a combination of men and women like cats and dogs. Therefore, the children produced in the modern age are not exactly human beings.
Therefore, they don't behave like human beings also.
According to the Vedic system of marriage, for producing children, every man and woman was enlightened in spiritual knowledge, and at the time of their combination to produce a child, everything was scrutinizingly and scientifically done.
Means that there should be proper Dharmadana Samskara, there should be clear consciousness of why they want to have the child, what kind of child they want to have. They should undergo some austerity. They should do some nice devotional service. All these things should be done before going for a child. One should not simply go for a child just as a product of sex life, or the child should not accidentally happen as a product of sex life. क्या हो गया मालूम नहीं है बच्चा हो गया. It should not be like that. It should be a plan, proper plan.
The word Sevadhim means that he is the original bestower of all necessities of the life upon the living entities. Because he is the bestower of the necessities of all others, he is called God. The Supreme is also a living entity. He is not impersonal, as we are individual. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is also individual, but he is the Supreme Individual. That is the difference between God and ordinary living entity.
Yeah, so now the glories of Kapila is being spoken. That Kapila Dev is so great. Okay, please read.
Everyone in this material world engages in achieving the fruits of his labor. A man tries to be happy by achieving the fruits of his own honest labor. But actually he becomes more and more entangled. One cannot get out of this entanglement unless he has perfect knowledge or devotional service. In the Vedic scriptures, we find that if one has taken to the devotional service of the Lord in Krishna consciousness, he can very easily uproot the deep-rooted desire for fruitive activities. Jnana does not refer to ordinary research work. Jnana entails receiving knowledge from the scriptures through the spiritual master by disciplic succession. In the modern age, there is a tendency to do research by mental speculation and concoction. But the man who speculates forgets that he himself is subject to the four defects of nature. He is sure to commit mistakes, his senses are imperfect, he is sure to fall into illusion, and he is cheating. Unless one has perfect knowledge from disciplic succession, he simply puts forth some theories of his own creation. Therefore, he is cheating people. Jnana means knowledge received through the disciplic succession from the scriptures. And Vijnana means practical application of such knowledge. Kapila Muni's Sankhya system of philosophy is based on Jnana and Vijnana.
There is Jnana and then there is application part, which is Vijnana. So the Jnana is given in terms of Jnana and Yoga, and the Vijnana part is given in terms of Bhakti. So Kapila Sankhya has three components, which is one is Jnana, the other one is Yoga, the third one is Bhakti. So the initial application of Jnana comes in the form of Yoga, and the proper application of Jnana comes in the form of Bhakti. So you study the next units, you are going to study Kapila Sankhya. Very interesting subject, very, very interesting subject. When you actually understand and study Kapila Sankhya, you can actually observe yourself or the working of your body and mind and intelligence, like how a machine is working. Very interesting. It's very, very interesting when you actually get into Kapila Sankhya and study it. And then when you try to apply it on your own self, you can see how things work. When Krishna says, Yandra Rudhani Maya, why he says that, you can actually understand when you study Kapila Sankhya, that you can understand this body is like a machine. Every action and reaction of this body, how the mind reacts, how the intelligence works, how the false ego works, all these things, you can actually stand aloof and see how your whole body, gross body and subtle body is functioning in unison, like a machine. Very funny things you can observe when you study Sankhya philosophy. Okay, please read.
Here the word avidya is very significant. Avidya means forgetfulness of one's identity. Every one of us is a spirit soul, but we have forgotten. We think I am this body. This is called avidya. Samshaya granthi means doubtfulness. The knot of doubtfulness is tied when the soul identifies with the material world.
Yeah. So now he is speaking, Brahma is speaking to Devavati, and he is saying that your son, Kapila, he will deliver everybody. Okay.
The word susammata means accepted by persons who are counted upon to give their good opinion.
So whatever Kapila speaks, this will be accepted by everybody because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Naturally, whatever he speaks will be accepted by everybody. So after speaking this way and after pacifying everybody nicely, and the Lord, he went back in his swan carrier. He went with his entourage, which is the four Kumaras and Narada. Okay.
Brahma is also known as Hamsa because he can grasp the essence of everything.
Yeah.
The four Kumaras and Narada are Naishtika Brahmacharis. Naishtika Brahmachari refers to one who never wastes his semen at any time. They were not to attend the marriage ceremony of their other brothers, Marichi and other sages, and therefore they went back with their father Hamsa.
So Brahmacharis are not supposed to attend marriage ceremony. Brahmacharis, please not. They should not attend marriage ceremony. So even the four Kumaras went back. Narada went back. They didn't attend the marriage ceremony. Very strict. Okay, then Kardama got his daughters married. Kala married Marichi, Anusya married Atri, Shraddha married Angira, Kabir Bhu married Pulastya, and Gati married Pulaha, and Kriya married Kratu, and Shati married Prabhu, Arundhati married Vasishta. So, and also Shanti, she married Atharva. All these different brahmanas, great brahmanas, they actually got married to these nice girls, and then they were given sufficient dowry, everything. So they left, departed with joy to their own hermitage. They all left. And then Kardama approached Supreme Lord in a secluded place, and then he offered his prayers to Supreme Lord, who is his own son. Okay, please read.
This is also confirmed in the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj. In Kali Yuga, he does not directly appear, but he appears as a devotee. Vishnu is therefore known as Triyuga. Another explanation of Triyuga is that he has three prayers of divine attributes, namely power and affluence, piety and renown, and wisdom and dispassion. According to Sridhar Swami, his three pairs of opulences are complete riches and complete strength, complete fame and complete beauty, and complete wisdom and complete renunciation. There are different interpretations of Triyuga, but it is accepted by all learned scholars that Triyuga means Vishnu.
Yeah, so that's accepted. So Triga is expanded according to the different opulences of the Lord or different characteristics of the Lord. Everyone accepts that Triga is Vishnu. Okay, you speak.
The material world is a place of suffering, which is due to the misdeeds of the inhabitants, the conditioned souls themselves. The sufferings are not extraneously imposed upon them. Rather, the conditioned souls create their own suffering by their own acts. In the forest, fire takes place automatically. It is not that someone has to go there and set a fire. Because of friction among various trees, the fire occurs automatically.
Yeah. So same way, the Jiva is responsible for his own mistakes. Of course, you will have enough opportunity to study about this in the Vidramaitreya Samvad, and also you will have. No, you already studied this in Vidramaitreya Samvad, and again you will have enough opportunity to study about this in the description of the Sankhya philosophy. Okay.
One cannot practice yoga in a city or in a public park and declare that he has become God simply by some exchange of dollars. This is all bogus propaganda. Those who are actually yogis practice in a secluded place, and after many, many births they become successful, provided they surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the completion of yoga.
The Prabhu consistently criticizes the so-called modern yogis who are making a joke of the whole yoga system. And consistently he points out that yoga is meant for pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for sense control, etc. Okay.
He agrees
Please
to
read.
he agrees to appear in a householder's home where devotees engage in devotion service without material yoga practice.
So the Lord is more attracted by devotion, not so much by yoga. So Kardama is actually presenting himself as a humble householder. And then he's saying, "Oh Lord, you have even appeared in my house. I'm not great yogi. Still you have appeared." Okay. Prabhu's joke. Please read.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead is known as Bhakta Vachal. He is never described as Jnani Vachal or Yogi Vachal. He is always described as Bhakta Vachal because he is more inclined toward his devotees than toward other transcendentalists.
So Prabhu is pulling the leg of Jnanis and yogis. Not Jnani Vatsal, not Yogi Vatsal, it's Bhakta Vatsal. Okay. Read.
He descended as the son of Kardama Muni in order to fulfill that promise. Another purpose of his appearance is Chikrisur, Bhagavan, Jnanam, to distribute the knowledge. Therefore, he is called Bhaktanam Manavardhana, Manavardhana,
Manavardhana.
he who increases the honor of his devotees. Therefore, Sankhya philosophy is not dry mental speculation. Sankhya philosophy means devotional service. Devotees are not interested in speculative knowledge. Therefore, the Sankhya enunciated by Kapila Muni is meant to establish one firmly in the devotional service. Real knowledge and real liberation is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage in devotional service.
Yeah, so that's the real purpose of Sankhya. Of course, you study it and you know for yourself. But that's the real purpose of Sankhya. Okay.
Sridhar Swami has commented that arupina, without form, means without material form. These transcendental forms of the Lord and being disappointed, they say that the Supreme Lord is impersonal. But that is not a fact. Whenever there is form, there is a person. Many times in many Vedic literatures, the Lord is described as Purusha.
Which means the original form, original enjoyer.
Which means the original.
So here, Kapila Deva, he is actually praying to the Supreme Lord. Kardama is praying to the Supreme Lord, Kapila Deva, who is his own son. But he knows that he is the Supreme Lord. So therefore, he is offering nice prayer.
The word putram means in full. Purtam means in full. Another one of Krishna's names is Asamordhva, which means that no one is equal to or greater than him.
Okay, please
The
read.
word Param is used in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam in the phrase Param Satyam to refer to the Samam Bonam or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pradhanam, which means the chief, the origin, the source of everything. Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. He is Purusham or the enjoyer, the original person. He is the time element and is all cognizant. He knows everything, past, present and future. God maintains all other living entities, but no one can maintain God. That is his Swachhanda Shakti. He is not dependent on others.
So this is his prayer which he offers to Kapila. Yeah. Please read.
Atmanubhutyanugata prapancham. The Lord descends either as Kapila or Rama, Narasimha or Varaha, and whatever forms he assumes in the material world are all manifestations of his own personal internal energy. They are never forms of the material energy.
So here is a very important prayer which Kapila speaks to the Supreme Lord, which Kardama speaks to Kapila. A very important prayer. He says that today I have something to ask from you, who are the Lord of all living entities. Since I have now been liberated by you from my debts to my Father, since all my desires are fulfilled, I wish to accept an order of itinerant mendicant. Renouncing this family life, I wish to order about free from lamentation, thinking always of you in my heart. So he very humbly submitted his prayer that he be released from this activity of material life, of being father, of being husband, of being a son, all these things. Because as a husband, as a son, he took the orders of his father Brahma very seriously, and he pleased the Supreme Lord, and he asked for a nice wife. The Lord told that he himself will come and he will appear as his son. And he chose Devhuti as his wife. He happily married Devhuti, who is chosen by the Lord as his wife. And when Devhuti, in spite of him offering her the transcendental gift, which is free from lamentation and fear, when Devhuti chose the path of enjoyment, he actually satisfied her completely. As a duty, as a husband, in his duty, he satisfied her completely. He did the duty of a nice husband. And then he gave her 9 daughters. And then as the father of those daughters, he found competent husbands for all of them. And he gave them in charity. So this way, as a matter of duty, Kardama, he acted as a good son. He acted as a good husband. And he acted as a good father. And also, when his wife, Devhuti, when she realized that she has been cheated by the illusory energy, and when she requested to him to show the path of liberation, he firmly instructed her in the process of devotional service, by which the Supreme Lord is pleased. And he told her that by such process, the Lord would actually appear as her own son. So, in every respect, Kardama did his duties without complaining. He went through the process. He did all his duties without complaining. Simply carrying the Lord in his heart. And the same Lord who actually appeared before him, and he presented himself as a materialistic person, asking for a good wife in order to enjoy sex life. So that same person who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is now appeared as his son, now Kapila, he submits his very humble prayer. Kardama, he submits very humble prayer. He says, now you please release me. I have played my part, now you please release me. That's why Kardama is a great soul. It's a great soul. And how he acts according to the directions of his superiors, and how he himself acts as an authority is something which we should very carefully study. And in the end, when his duties are over, he did not waste one moment in seeking the Lord for shelter, for being relieved from all these different upadhis which he had accepted as a matter of duty. He did not hesitate. He was not attached to any one of them. He was not attached to being a husband. He was not attached to being a son. He was not attached to being a father. He was simply attached to being a devotee. That's that one designation he wanted. So therefore, he requested the Lord, please release me from all these designations, in which he had performed his various duties perfectly. So that should be our mood. That maybe different responsibilities may come to us. We may get different position, different responsibility, different designations, different things. Never should we be attached to all these things. While we do our best, just like Kardama, he did his best. He was the best son, the best husband, he was the best father. And he did his best. And when there was opportunity, he always engaged in devotional service to please the Supreme Lord. So, in all his various roles, he simply acted as a devotee. His father requested him to do something, and he did the best because he was a devotee. His wife requested him to do something, he did the best because he was a devotee. When his wife realized her unfortunate situation, he saved her because he was a devotee. And with his daughters, he got her best husbands because he was a devotee. And now he wants to just be a devotee. He wants to be relieved from all these different designations. But there's no need for that. We should have the same mood as we go through, where we may be householders, we may be brahmacharis, we may be sannyasis. Doesn't matter. In the process of executing devotional service within an institution, we may have to take so many different roles. We may have to take so many different responsibilities. Because we are devotees, we should take all those roles and responsibilities simply to please Krishna, not for anything else. And we should try to do our best in those roles and responsibilities. We should give more than 100% what we have to give in the roles and responsibilities. In spite of being criticized, in spite of being sometimes misunderstood, we should do our best. Nothing less than the best. But when there is no need, we should happily give up all those things. Very happily we should give up those things. There's no need. Very happily we should give up everything. And simply engage in Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevaram, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasam, Sakyam, Atmani Vedram. Activities of devotional service we should engage in. It's a very important prayer where Kardama actually reveals his heart. Okay, please read.
Actually, sannyasa or renunciation of material household life necessitates complete absorption in Krishna consciousness and immersion in the self. One does not take sannyas, freedom from family responsibility in the renounced order of life, to make another family or to create an embarrassing transcendental fraud in the name of sannyas. The sannyasi's business is not to become proprietor of so many things and amass money from the innocent public. A sannyasi is proud that he is always thinking of Krishna within himself. Of course, there are two kinds of devotees of the Lord. One is called Goshthanandi, which means those who are preachers and have many followers for preaching the glories of the Lord, and who live among those many followers. Many followers just go to organize missionary activities. Other devotees are Atmanandi or self-satisfied and do not take the risk of preaching work. They therefore remain alone with God. A mendicant sannyasi should not live anywhere for more than 3 days. He just be always moving because his duty is to move from door to door and enlighten people about Krishna consciousness.
So here Prabhupada nicely explains about how the sannyasi should be. So having heard these wonderful prayers from his father, his great devotee, then the Lord replied, Shri Bhagavan Vacha. So he replied, so he said, because I told you before that I would become your son, I have descended to fulfill the truth. So, okay, please read the purport.
Kardama Muni was to leave his family life to completely engage in the service of the Lord. God himself was present in his home. Why should he leave home? Such a question may certainly arise. But here it is said that whatever is spoken in the Vedas and whatever is practiced in accordance with the injunctions of the Vedas is to be accepted as authoritative in society. Vedic authority says that a householder must leave home after his 50th year. Panchaswardvam vanam vrajet. One must leave his family life and enter the forest after the age of 50. This is an authoritative statement of the Vedas based on the division of social life into 4 departments of activity: Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanprastha and Sannyas. Even though he had the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, he had to respect the authority of the Vedas. This is a very important lesson. Even if one has God in his home as his son, one should still follow the Vedic injunction. In Vedic injunctions, it is stated, Mahajano yena gataha supantha. One should traverse the path which is followed by great personalities. Kardama Muni's example is very instructive, for in spite of having the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son, he left home just to obey the authority of the Vedic injunction. Kardama Muni states here the main purpose of his leaving home. While traveling all over the world as a mendicant, he would always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart and thereby freed from all the anxieties of material existence. In this age of Kali Yuga, sannyas is prohibited because persons in this age are all Shudras and cannot follow the rules and regulations of sannyas life. It is very commonly found that so-called sannyasis are addicted to nonsense, even to having private relationships with women. This is the abominable situation in this age. Although they dress themselves as sannyasis, they still cannot free themselves from the four principles of sinful life, namely illicit sex life, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. Since they are not freed from these four principles, they are cheating the public by posing as swamis. In Kali Yuga, the injunction is that no one should accept sannyas. Of course, those who actually follow the rules and regulations must accept. Must take sannyas. Generally, however, people are unable to accept sannyas life, and therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stressed, Kalau nasteva 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 gatir anyatha. In this age, there is no other alternative, no other alternative, no other alternative than to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The main purpose of sannyas life is to be in constant companionship with the Supreme Lord, either by thinking of Him within the heart or hearing of Him through oral reception. In this age, hearing is more important than thinking because one's thinking may be disturbed by mental agitation. But if one concentrates on hearing, he will be forced to associate with the sound vibration of Krishna. Krishna and the sound vibration, Krishna, are non-different. So if one loudly vibrates Hare Krishna, he will be able to think of Krishna immediately. This process of chanting is the best process of self-realization in this age. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya preached it so nicely for the benefit of all humanity.
So here the Prabhupada makes a nice analysis of why actually Kardama left his home, even though the Supreme Personality of Godhead was very much present in his home. So Kardama wanted to set a proper example of how to follow the Vedic injunction. It's very important to follow Vedic injunction. So therefore, Panchashloka Manam Bhajet. For all Grahasthas, they should take it seriously. Prabhupada says, must leave. Must leave. It's not a choice. Vanaprastha is not a choice. You cannot think that, it's okay, I'm Grahastha, I can become Vanaprastha, or I need not become Vanaprastha. Never think like that. Vanaprastha is not a choice. When the husband is 50, that means one should dedicate maximum time in the practice of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says in various instructions that Prabhupada gave practically what Vanaprastha means, because we don't have any forest. So where we go and live in forest? There's no question of living in forest. Rather, one should dedicate all their life or the maximum portion of their time to progress in Krishna consciousness. They should not dedicate maximum portion of their time in maintenance of household affairs. Normally, a Grahastha has to spend substantial time in the maintenance of household affairs. There are so many things to settle, so many disputes, so many things to, so much of guidance to be given to children, earn a lot of money, all these things. Vanaprastha means that everything should be simplified. And the maximum time in a day, other than eating, sleeping, maximum time, of course, there is no mating, there is no defending. Vanaprastha means zero mating, zero defending. Only eating, sleeping. That is the bodily activity. So, once that is done, then the maximum time should be spent in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada says that the woman or the wife, she should become like a spiritual assistant to the husband, and she should be along. She can be along with the husband, or the husband and wife can separate. Both is possible in one person. Husband and wife can separate, or the woman can become some spiritual assistant, like a spiritual assistant of the husband. They can travel to different places. They can preach. They can go for pilgrimage. But maximum time should be spent in Krishna conscious, direct Krishna conscious activities, in their own nourishment of Krishna consciousness, in trying to nourish others in Krishna consciousness. That's how maximum time should be spent. So that's called Vanaprastha life, life dedicated for the movement. So when there is 50, then the bell should ring, ting 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 ting. time for vanaprastha, no more household life, sab band karo, bells should start ringing. You should not think, that for a time hai, chalayenge, aur thoda lamba chalayenge. Of course, in Kali Yuga also there is a problem because marriages are late. So one can take 25 years from married life. That's also a good calculation. And also the other part which we see is that Kardama completed all his duties with respect to his son and with respect to his daughter. Of course, with respect to his son, there was no duty because he is Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the maintainer of the whole universe. With respect to his daughters, there was his duty of getting them married. So that's also another thing, that the daughter should be married and the son should have some means of livelihood. So that means the duty of father and mother is over. The daughter is married, daughters are married, the sons are having some means of livelihood, over, finished. So if it goes beyond 50, it can only go beyond that stage of finishing one's duties. Duty is over, ding, vanaprastha. Without any doubt, one should take vanaprastha. Yeah, here it is there. Everyone's life must be so arranged, last stage of life, at least last 15-20 years prior to death can absolutely be dedicated to devotional service of the Lord to attain perfection. It is really foolishness to engage oneself in all days in one's life of material enjoyment and food activities. Because as long as the mind remains absorbed in food activities or material enjoyment, there's no chance of getting out of conditioned life or material bondage. No one should follow the suicidal policy of neglecting one's supreme task of attaining the highest perfection of life, namely going back to Godhead. Srimata Prabhu, thank you very much. You are the champion of Vanaprastha. Okay. Okay, please read.
Modern civilization is supposed to be making advancement in scientific knowledge. But what is this scientific knowledge? It is based on bodily comforts only. Without knowledge that however comfortably one maintains his body, the body is destructible, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Antavanta ime deha. The real truth is knowledge of how to get out of the material body, which is the source of all trouble. Lord Kapila's incarnation or descent is especially meant for this purpose. That is clearly stated here.
Yes, when you study the Sankhya philosophy, you will understand it further. That how to get out of this conception of bodily conception of life. Okay?
On the material platform, everyone, especially the mental speculator, try to be more prominent than others. The field of activity of the speculators is the mind. There is no limit to the different ways in which one can agitate the mind, and thus one can put forward an unlimited number of theories. Sankhya philosophy is not like that. It is not mental speculation. It is factual. But at the time of Kapila, it was lost. The time factor is so pressing that in the course of time, everything within this material world is spoiled or lost. When people forget their eternal relationship with God and engage in something other than devotional service, their engagement is called irreligion.
So, the Lord came to establish the age-old principles of devotional service through the Sankhya philosophy. Okay. Please read.
To become free from birth and death is not an easy task. Birth and death are natural to this material body. Sudurjayam means very, very difficult to overcome. The modern so-called scientists do not have sufficient means to understand the process of victory over birth and death. Therefore, they set aside the question of birth and death. They do not consider it. They simply engage in the problems of material body, which is transient and soon to end.
Actually, human life is meant for conquering the insurmountable process of birth and death that can be done as stated here. Mam Bhaja, one must engage in devotional service of the Lord. But foolish so-called scholars
say that it is not Krishna whom we must worship and to whom we must surrender. It is something else. Without Krishna's mercy, therefore, no one can understand the Sankhya philosophy or any philosophy which is
Any philosophy.
any philosophy which is especially meant for liberation. Vedic knowledge confirms that one becomes entangled in the material life because of ignorance, and that one can become free from material embarrassment by becoming situated in factual knowledge. Sankhya means that factual knowledge by which one can get out of the material entanglement.
So that's Sankhya. So that Sankhya will explain how by combination of devotional service and jnana and yoga, one can actually get out of this material entitlement and firmly place himself in devotional service to Supreme Lord. So that will be explained. That's Sankhya philosophy. Okay. Is it?
The words used here are Vishoko Bhayam Richasi. Simply by seeing the personality of Godhead, one realizes everything. And the result is that one becomes situated on the platform where there is no lamentation and no fear. This can be attained simply by devotional service to the personality of Godhead.
Yes, of course. This is a very repeating theme in this pastime, that there is no lamentation and no fear, because the material world is full of lamentation and fear. The Sankhya philosophy, as explained by Kapila, takes the jiva out of this realm of lamentation and fear and takes him to a place where there is no lamentation and no fear, which is the spiritual world. So now he is assuring to Kardama that he will actually take care of his mother. I shall also describe the sublime knowledge which is brought to spiritual life to my mother, so that she can also attain perfection in self-realization, ending all reactions to fruitive activities. Thus, she will also be freed from all material fear. So, he is saying that whatever Kardama promised to his wife, or whatever his wife beseeched from Kardama, she said, please give me fearlessness. So that will be fulfilled. So his mother's desire will be fulfilled because he will instruct her in the path of no lamentation and no fear. So that's the duty of a good son. He should take care of the responsibility of the mother and he should relieve the father. Okay, please read.
A very good example is set here. The husband goes away taking the sannyas order for self-realization, but his representative, the son, who is equally educated, remains at home to deliver the mother. A sannyasi is not supposed to take his wife with him. At the vanaprastha stage of retired life, or the stage midway between householder life and renounced life, one may keep his wife as an assistant without sex relations. But in the sannyas order of life, one cannot keep his wife with him. Kardam Muni followed the Vedic injunction that no one in sannyas life can have any kind of relationship with women. But what is the position of a woman who is left by her husband? She is entrusted to the son, and the son promises that he will deliver his mother from entanglement. A woman is not supposed to take sannyas. So-called spiritual societies concocted in modern times give sannyas even to women, although there is no sanction in the Vedic literature for a woman's accepting sannyas. Otherwise, if it were sanctioned, Kardam Muni could have taken his wife and given her sannyas. The woman must remain at home. She has only 3 stages of life: dependency on the father in childhood, dependency on the husband in youth, and in old age, dependency on the grown-up son, such as Kapila.
So that's the position of women, that they can be delivered. They can stay at home, and they can be delivered by engaging in devotional service at home. But when they are at home doesn't mean that they should get entangled with the activities of the home. They should understand that her son's wife is there, and now she's taking care of the household, and she should not interfere in those activities. They may be to her taste, to her liking, may not be to her taste, may not be to her liking, but she should not interfere in those activities. She should simply utilize the shelter of home to engage in devotional service and to go back home, back to Godhead. Not to become, not to try to interfere in the activities of the home. You never try to do it. Very important. So Maitreya now brings this pastime to conclusion by speaking about Kardama's activities. Okay. Please.
Going to the forest is compulsory for everyone. It is not a mental excursion upon which one person goes and another does not.
A very interesting purpose.
Everyone should go to the forest at least as a vanprastha. Forest going means take 100% shelter of the Supreme Lord, as explained by Prahlad Maharaj in his talks with his father. Sada samudvignena dhyam asatgrahat. The preliminary process to become freed is to go to the forest or give up family relationships and exclusively engage in Krishna consciousness. That is the purpose of going to the forest. Otherwise, the forest is only a place of monkeys and wild animals. To go to the forest does not mean to become a monkey or a ferocious animal. It means to accept exclusively the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and engage oneself in full service. One does not actually have to go to the forest.
You see how Prabhupada started? Going to the forest is compulsory for everyone. And then what is Prabhupada concluding? Actually, one does not have to go to the forest. Very interesting purpose. But when Prabhupada says that going to the forest is compulsory for everyone, Prabhupada very nicely explains what does it mean going to the forest. Because Prabhupada also knows that in Kali Yuga, you cannot find forest and go and sit there. So that's why Prabhupada concludes saying that actually one does not have to go to the forest. Okay. Please read.
Alone in a field, if one falls into a blind well and no one is there to save him, he may cry for years and no one will see or hear him cry. Where is the crying coming from? Death is sure. Similarly, those who are forgetful of their eternal relationship with the Supreme Lord are in the blind well of family life, and their position is very ominous. Prahlad Maharaj advised that one should give up this well somehow or other and take to Krishna consciousness and thus be freed from material entanglement which is full of anxieties.
So these are all very important for instructions for householders, that they should give up this dark well known as this family life. It's also instruction for sannyasi, for brahmacharis. They should not take a plunge into this dark well. Should not think, okay, now we live as brahmachari, it's boring, let's complicate our life and let's jump into this well and then let's see how life becomes interesting. No, they should think very carefully that whether we should jump into this or not. Very, very important. That's why there is so much of warning in Bhagavatam that don't be casually, one should not become grahastha. If one wants to become grahastha, it's okay, no problem. But one should fully understand the implication of becoming grahastha. And then one should act like a grahastha, just like Kardama acted properly like a grahastha. One should act like a grahastha. And then one should again go back to the status of renouncing the family activities. Okay.
A sannyasi,
Please read.
a sannyasi should be completely detached from fire and any residential quarters. A grahastha has a relationship with fire either for offering sacrifice or for cooking, but a sannyasi is freed from these two responsibilities. He does not have to cook or offer fire for sacrifice because he is always engaged in Krishna consciousness. Therefore, he has already accomplished all ritualistic performances of religion. But speaking is the test. The so-called silence of a silent impersonalist, Swami, indicates that he has nothing to say. He simply wants to beg. But the silence adopted by Kardama Muni was Not like that. He became silent for relief from nonsensical talk. One is called a Muni when he remains grave and does not talk nonsense. Maharaj Ambarish set a very good example. Whenever he spoke about the pastimes of the Lord. Mauna necessitates refraining from nonsensical talking and engaging the talking facility in the pastime of the Lord. In that way, one can chant and hear about the Lord in order to perfect his life. Vratam means that one should take a vow as explained in Bhagavad Gita, amanitvam adambhitvam, without hankering for personal respect or without being proud of one's material position. There are 18 processes for attaining knowledge and perfection.
As explained in Bhagavad Gita, starting from a mantra. So Prabhupada here explains that Mauna means just not being silent, but just talking only Krishna consciousness. In that sense, all of us should be Mauni. All of us, we should try to be silent. We should not talk nonsense. We should simply open our mouth to talk essential aspects of worldly dealings, which is unavoidable. We have to talk essential aspects of worldly dealings. But that talk should be minimum. But we should freely talk to preach Krishna consciousness, or to talk about Krishna, or to discuss Krishna consciousness. For that, we should freely talk. Please read.
Whenever there is bhakti, there must be three things present: the devotee, the devotion, and the Lord. Without these three, bhakta, bhakti, and Bhagavan, there is no meaning to the word bhakti. Feature of the absolute truth. Gunam bhase. He
is beyond the three modes of material nature, but it is due to him that the three modes of material nature are manifested. Okay, please read.
A person engaged in Krishna consciousness is at once liberated from the influence of the three modes of material nature. In other words, once the conditioned soul engages himself in devotional service, he also becomes liberated like the Lord.
So, when we say that he is liberated like the Lord, that means he keeps himself in the transcendental form, which is beyond the effect of the three modes of material nature. So here, Kardamuni's progress is described as he gradually became unaffected by false ego of material identity, and he became free from material affection. Undisturbed, equal to everyone, without duality, he could indeed see himself also. His mind was turned inward and was perfectly calm, like the ocean, unagitated by the waves. Okay.
This very example is also cited in Bhagavad Gita. One should become like the ocean. The ocean is filled by many thousands of rivers, and millions of tons of its water evaporates into clouds. Yet the ocean is the same unagitated ocean. The laws of nature may work, but if one is fixed in devotional service at the lotus feet of the Lord, he is not agitated, for he is introspective. He does not look outside to material nature, but he looks into the spiritual nature of his existence. With a sober mind, he simply engages in the service of the Lord. Such a great devotee is never in trouble with others because he sees everyone from the platform of spiritual understanding. He sees himself and others in the right perspective.
Yeah, so he reached that stage of being able to see himself properly. And because he is able to see himself properly, then he also was able to see others properly. The most important problem is that we are not able to see ourselves properly. So then we are not able to see others also properly. Neither we are able to see others properly, nor we are able to see Krishna properly. So being in Krishna consciousness means seeing everybody. In Bhagavad Gita, in 5th chapter, the example of the sun is given. And Krishna himself gives that example. Yet Adityava Jnanam, he says. The knowledge of Krishna consciousness is like sun. when the knowledge of Krishna consciousness arises, then we can see ourselves, we can see others, we can see Krishna. Everybody we can see clearly. Okay. Please read.
When the conditioned soul realizes that he is subordinate to the Supreme Soul, his position is called Labadhatma, self-realization. Labdhatma, self-realization, or Mukta Bandhana, freedom from material contamination. Material contamination continues as long as one thinks that he is as good as the Supreme Lord or is equal with him. This condition is the last snare of Maya. Maya always influences the conditioned soul. The word parena is very significant. Para means transcendental, untinged by material contamination. Full consciousness that one is an eternal servant of the Lord is called para bhakti. If one has any identification with material things and executes devotional service for attainment of some material gain, that is vividha bhakti, contaminated bhakti. One should not think that he is freed from reaction because he has forgotten the actions of his past life. Reactions will take place, and what kind of reactions there will be, and what kinds of reactions there will be, is judged by the super soul, the witness.
So we should actually try to practice parabhakti. We should not practice vidabhakti. We should try to practice parabhakti. And we should sincerely try that the aim of our devotional service should be only to please the Supreme Lord, to please the devotees, to please the spiritual master, to please the acharyas. So we should perform bhakti for that purpose, not for any other purpose. We should not have some subsidiary motives which have got nothing to do with bhakti existing in our heart. And if such motives are there, we should carefully remove them. And this will be identified in Kapila Dev's description of devotional service. These things will be identified very nicely. So the human body has all the facility to do this analysis and to actually remove it. This will also be known when you actually study Kapila Siksha, that what kind of facility the human body offers. It offers very nice facility by which one can realize one's complete dependence on the Supreme Lord. So all the faculties and facilities of the human body should be simply utilized to develop that dependence, on the Supreme Lord, which is the factual state of the conditioned soul, even the liberated soul. That's the factual state. That's the factual state of the jiva. So all the different facilities and faculties of the material body should be realized to that end, not for anything else. Okay.
There are three kinds of devotees: the neophyte devotee, the intermediate devotee, and the advanced devotee. The neophyte devotee does not understand the techniques of devotional service, but simply offer devotional service to a deity in the temple. The intermediate devotee understands who God is and who is a devotee and who is a non-devotee and who is innocent, and he deals with such person differently. But a person who sees that the Lord is sitting as a Paramatma in everyone's heart and that everything is depending or existing on the transcendental energy of Supreme Lord is in the highest devotional position.
Kardama attained that position, freed from all hatred and desire, Kartamuni, being equal to everyone because of discharging uncontaminated devotional service, ultimately attained the path back to Godhead. So this brings us to the end of this nice pastime of Kardama and Devaki. Please read.
The process of entering into the kingdom of God is Tripada Bhuti Gati, or the path back home, back to Godhead, by which one can attain the ultimate goal of life. Kardamuni, by his perfect devotional knowledge and service, achieved this ultimate goal, which is known as Bhagavati Gati.
As in the purport of third canto, 25th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Renunciation of Kardamuni. That brings us to the end of the discussion on this section, which dealt with many topics, including the introduction or the summary of the creative process, We dealt with the prayers of Kardama. We also dealt with the Supreme Lord's reply. We also discussed the duties of Brahmanas and Kshatriyas in the conversation between Kardama and Surabhu. In the process, we also discussed the duties of the parents in getting a good husband for the daughter. We also discussed the importance of Garbhadhar. We discussed the nature of the entangling nature of family life, which causes fear and lamentation. And we also discussed the relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple, and how a disciple should be careful having accepted a competent spiritual master and having accepted the process of Krishna consciousness. Our disciple should be careful. We also discussed the importance of utilizing all the various positions and roles which we have to play inevitably in the material world, fully to satisfy the Supreme Lord. And we also discussed the importance of giving up these positions and roles at the right time and engaging ourselves completely in devotional service. So, there are many important lessons for the sadhakas in this section, which, according to my limited understanding, whatever I could within this limited time, we had some discussion and presentation. So, I'd like to thank all of you for your nice association. And also, I'd like to thank especially for tolerating this extended session. It's not very easy when you have various commitments, and when you have to do so many different things. When you have planned all your activities very nicely, when someone comes and upsets the apple cart, it's not very easy to adjust everything. Thank you for adjusting everything. Thank you for nicely tolerating. And thank you for giving nice association and company. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, we did not have a formal question answer session for this section. So, if you have some questions, if you have something to ask, this is the time for you to ask.
Hare Krishna. Prabhu, one question I had, little bit from the previous section actually, where
Yes, because we didn't have question answer for the previous section.
like Kardama Muni, we saw the relationship with Devahuti in terms of both husband-wife and spiritual master disciple. So,
Yes.
in terms of like when Devahuti asked for son and then Kardama Muni facilitated the whole thing. So, what is the lesson from like what does the spiritual master when the disciple has material desires in his relationship? So, what lessons we can learn for? Does the spiritual master actually facilitate it like Balam rice kind of thing? Is that the understanding, or because
Sometimes the spiritual master may see that the disciple has certain tendency or certain nature, and the disciple is very strongly attached to that nature, which is an acquired nature. So he may be strongly attached to being a manager, or he may be strongly attached to being a kitaniya, or he may be strongly attached to being some sort of class giver or something like that. It's not something which is conducive for devotional service. It's simply an attachment. He may be attached to various things, or he may be attached to household life. He may be attached to his job, whatever it is. Just like Devahuti had some attachment. So the spiritual master may actually encourage the disciple to actually engage in devotional service while trying to utilize that very same attachment he has within the realm of devotional service. Just like what Kardama did, he actually tolerated his wife's attachment for having sex life, but within that realm, also he kept her Krishna conscious. So a spiritual master may do something like that. That okay, this guy is so attached to being like this. at least within this, then let him be Krishna conscious. Many of our ISKCON spiritual masters are like that, because the devotees, the disciples have sometimes many strong attachments, and they all come from different walks of life. Therefore, they have this difficulty in giving up those attachments. So the spiritual masters are quite tolerant, and they actually engage those very same attachments in devotional service. Like someone is attached to name and fame, the spiritual master himself glorifies him very nicely. And then the person starts thinking, oh, my spiritual master thinks I'm a great man. He thinks I'm doing nice service. And then that becomes his impetus for doing nice service. Sometimes spiritual masters say things like, oh, I don't know what would I have done without you. So they say, and the disciple also thinks, oh, I'm doing very important service from the spiritual master. A spiritual master is thinking that it's very difficult for this. And sometimes they may say, this project, you are very important for this project. The project cannot function without you. So the disciple also thinks, I am very important for this project. The project cannot function without you. That becomes the impetus for the disciple to work very sincerely in devotional service. Just they engage that nature, that attachment to a particular mode, sometimes passion, sometimes all these things, they engage that in devotional service. Just like Kardama simply engaged devotee in devotional service. At one point, when the spiritual master is very merciful, then the spiritual master also gives some shock treatment, like Kardama gave some shock treatment to devotee. When the spiritual master is merciful, he may also give some shock treatment. And if he sees that, okay, the disciple can tolerate the shock treatment. In Kali Yuga, disciples are so fickle, sometimes they cannot even tolerate the shock treatment. As long as they have glorified the spiritual master, they can remain Krishna conscious. The moment they get chastised by the spiritual master, they start to run away. But Prabhupada disciples, they were so happy to get chastised by Prabhupada. They were very happy to get chastised by Prabhupada. But nowadays, spiritual masters are careful. They have to choose their words. They have to speak nice language because they don't want the disciples to be discouraged in their practice of Krishna consciousness. So even when they want to chastise, they chastise very mildly. Sometimes the chastisement itself seems like glorification. So once I was, my spiritual master told me to do something, and somehow that was not getting done, and it was just going. Then we had one follow-up meeting, then we had second follow-up meeting, and still I had nothing substantial to report. And then my spiritual master told me, I think you are very busy and you have many responsibilities. So you should take some assistant so that you can do all your responsibilities nicely. You are doing many responsible functions. So it looked like that he was actually glorifying that I am very busy, I am taking many responsibilities. After 5 minutes, I understood that I am getting chastised. Initially, I couldn't understand that I am getting chastised. I was thinking, what Gurma is saying, what Gurma is saying. Then it stuck to me. Hey, he's chastising me. I'm getting chastised. I became very humble. I told Gurma, sorry, it's my mistake. I will get things done. So the spiritual masters nowadays also are so expert because the disciples are so useless. The spiritual masters are so expert. They are always seeing how to encourage the disciple in being Krishna conscious. In spite of all the defects of the disciples, how to encourage them. The same like Kardama dealing with devotee. Same thing is there.
So, Prabhuji, when the spiritual master is expertly glorifying and all this, how to keep ourselves fine-tuned like you were in that situation? Because sometimes it's difficult. The spiritual master's heart may be deep, and we may not understand that he is actually really appreciating, or like there is an encouragement required also for conditioned soul, and he may not really not.
Yeah,
he may not be chastising, but encouraging for something nice you have done. And sometimes he may actually be chastising in an indirect way, as you are sharing. So how we really fine tune our consciousness to detect that?
So that's why the conversation between Swayambhu Manu and Kardama is very, very useful. Kardama is a spiritual master, Swayambhu Manu is a disciple. Because Kardama by nature is Brahmana and Swayambhu Manu by nature is Kshatriya. So if you see from that perspective, Kardama plays the role of a spiritual master and Swayambhu Manu plays the role of a disciple. And even in their conversation, it is very clear. It says that I have been instructed by you. Swayambhu Manu says that now my doubts are removed because I have been instructed by you about the duties of different types of people. So that's a very interesting and instructive pastime. Yeah. So the thing is that if you see from Kardama's statement, it's very difficult to make out that Kardama is actually instructing Swayambhu Manu. He is simply glorifying Swayambhu Manu. That you are the representative of Supreme Personality of Godhead. He even pays obeisance to. He's saying that you are Supreme Personality of Godhead. He says that sometimes you take the role of Yama, Vayu, all these different demigods. Sometimes you take all this role when you are there. Then everybody is properly following religion. All these things he's saying. So he's glorifying. But Swayambhu Manu took that as instruction as to how a proper king should act. So that's how we should handle the glorification from the spiritual master. We should actually accept that glorification of the spiritual master as an instruction as to what he is expecting us to do. That's how we should take it. We should not simply take that, okay, the spiritual master is encouraging me or is glorifying me because I need some glorification. Or we should not think, okay, I'm getting some general encouragement because I need this encouragement. No, this is a specific instruction from the spiritual master that what is expected out of the disciple. So that expectation comes out as in the form of encouragement or in the form of glorification. So that should be carefully noted down, and it should be accepted as an instruction. Accepted. Even Prabhu Maharaj actually does the same thing. There are the professional glorifiers, the Suta, Magadha, and Bandi. They are actually saying the various activities which Prabhu Maharaj will perform. And then Prabhu Maharaj, he says that even though you are saying all these activities, till now I haven't performed these activities. So when I perform these activities, then I will accept them. As of now, I have not performed these activities, so I will not accept them. So therefore, when some good words or encouraging words come in our way, we should simply accept them as instruction, or we should look at them as instruction, and we should see how those instructions can be utilized for our benefit in progressing in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, one question. In the purport of 35, verse number 35, Srila Prabhupada mentions that there are two categories of devotees, Bhajananandi and Atmanandis. So Kardama Muni, he took the path of Atmanandi. So now my question is that some like these liberated personalities, some may take the like many places Prabhupada glorifies the path of the devotees who take to the missionary work of Krishna consciousness. On the other hand, the devotees, although they are very exalted, those who take the path of Atmanandi, that means they are simply self-satisfied in themselves. So is it that, are they inspired by the Lord from within, or should we, in any way, should they be seen in derogatory sense, negative sense? So how should we take it? Because they are liberated, but they are taking the step that they are simply satisfied in themselves. We understand that as a devotee grows in Krishna consciousness, he becomes more and more compassionate. So he wants to share Krishna consciousness with others. So when one is taking this, that one is simply satisfied, always thinking of Krishna and being alone and simply without any distraction of the material world and without any anxiety for organizing this preaching mission. Because it takes anxiety. When one takes to preaching, it naturally anxieties come. So when one is taking, is it that they are inspired by the Lord in that way to act in that particular way? Or how should they be seen?
This, the genuine Atmanandis should not be seen as being inferior. That's a big mistake. We never do that. Never do that. At the same time, we should also understand that in Kali Yuga, it's very difficult to find genuine Atmanandis. Prabhupada always encouraged us to be engaged as a team, to be in the Sankirtan movement. Because in Kali Yuga, when we try to be Atmanandi, we become completely distracted. During Prabhupada's time, there was one of Prabhupada disciple. He was in Mayapur. He was living near Goshala, and he was climbing on tree and sitting there, and he used to chant 64 rounds. And Prabhupada told him, "Don't do this, don't do this." But he always told Prabhupada, "I am only chanting 64 rounds. I'm chanting only Hare Krishna. What is the problem?" After some time, Prabhupada asked his disciples, "What happened to that boy who was sitting on the tree and chanting 64 rounds?" They said, "Prabhupada, he went away. He's not there." This is the status of the bogus Atmanandis in Kali Yuga. So, therefore, the safest path is to actually stay in the company of devotees, in association. But a genuine Atmanandi, he is as good as a Bhajanandi. There is no problem. He is as good as a Bhajanandi. Just like Gaur Kishore Das Baba, he never preached, but he produced one of the biggest preachers, who is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So, in that sense, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji did more preaching than anybody else. In that sense. So, a genuine Atmanandi is no less than Bhajananandi. Is no less than Bhajananandi. So, in that sense, they both are valuable. They both are valuable. We should not look at them as in derogatory way. Never we should look at them in derogatory way. They are all great souls. We should never look at them in derogatory way. That should be clearly understood. But in Kali Yuga, for majority of the devotees, the path of being Atmanandi is not seen as suitable because of their own weakness of heart. It is not seen as being suitable. Therefore, it is safe for our own safety. For our own safety, we should follow the process of Sankirtan, which is practicing devotional service in the association of everyone, and being accountable to others, engaging in the activities of the preaching movement. These are all for our own safety. We should do all these things.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, another question. Yeah, actually, we see that in this pastime, as the things are developing, we see that initially it is being mentioned that Kardama Muni, he desired to marry. So that time it appeared, I understood like this, that it was his personal desire. And gradually, as the pastimes unfolds, we understand that it was the desire of Brahma. He instructed him to get married. So then the whole perspective changed. Now, actually, I want to ask now, why in the initially stage, why it was shown as if it was his personal desire, and then Prabhupada brings out many lessons from that. And gradually we understand in a different way. So why sometimes, why this, it is explained in such a way that, is it to bring out lessons from that perspective, or there is some other purpose?
As far as my understanding is concerned, there are two purposes. The first purpose is what you said, to bring out various lessons from that perspective. Bhagavatam itself, I actually told in the beginning of explaining this pastime itself, that Kardama's personality unfolds like a lotus, which actually blossoms in the morning. Petal after petal, when it opens, then you see his gracious nature. And then finally, when it is fully blossomed, then you see the beauty of Kardama's personality. Bhagavatam itself treats him like that. So Prabhupada just plays along with Bhagavatam. He just plays along. But there are some hints of Kardama's greatness in between. And Prabhu also gives enough hints of, if you carefully read the purports, Prabhu also gives enough hints of Kardama's greatness in his own explanation of purports also. But he also uses the opportunity to give various instructions for us to understand, which is useful for our various stages in Krishna consciousness. We actually understand those things. So that's one genuine purpose. The other important purpose is that one should not quickly become judgmental of devotees. It's a very important thing. Just because by observing devotees with our limited perspective, we should not judge them. We should not think that, okay, this guy is like this, this guy is like this. We are nobody to judge devotees. We should deal with them nicely. We should deal with them respectfully. We should serve everybody. And if we want to understand someone, then we need to actually associate with them before judging them. And we need to associate with them genuinely, in the intention of taking some advantage from their association for our progress in Krishna consciousness. If you think, kya karega, इसका क्या मतलब? Or if you suddenly think that, ये तो ऐसा आदमी है, 10 साल पहले क्या कर रहा था, मुझे मालूम है, अभी ये डिवोटी बन के बहुत नखरा दिखा रहा है. We should not think like that. Every devotee in Krishna consciousness is valuable. And every devotee in Krishna consciousness is special. The billions of people in this world, how many of them have taken to Krishna consciousness? That a devotee has taken to Krishna consciousness itself is quite unprecedented. Therefore, every person in this Krishna conscious movement is a valuable person. I'm not saying that indiscriminately we should consider everybody as great, but there is a basic greatness of every person who actually has come to Krishna consciousness. It is laudable that they have accepted the process of Krishna consciousness in this Kali Yuga, where if someone wants to do sin, even sitting in the house, locking their door, people will knock their door, break their lock, Kabir said, give them all the opportunity to do sin and then glorify them, thinking that they are the heroes just because they have done sin. This is the nature of Kali Yuga. In this Kali Yuga, if someone has the inclination to follow four regular difference to chant 16 rounds, then genuinely we should consider that person as a very fortunate and great person. So that's a very important thing. That sometimes we unnecessarily become judgmental of devotees. We should not be like that. We should try to understand them completely before putting them in some before stamping some identification on them. And we should always be grateful for devotee association. Always be grateful for devotee association. Genuinely, we should be grateful for devotee association. These are some lessons which we learn from the gradual unfolding of Kardama's character.
Thank you, Prabhu. Prabhuji, can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Prabhu, we see that Kardama Muni, he got the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself as the child in his house. So point, the discussion went on that he could have remained at his home and he always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. And so now to follow the Vedic injunction, he left home to take renounced order of life. Now, what is more higher principle? Like, for example, being at home, he could have served and then he is always remembering Krishna, never forgetting Krishna. But in order to follow the Vedic injunction, so was the following the Vedic injunction higher as compared to always remembering Krishna, never? Obviously, after taking the renounced order of life, he also followed the same principle of always remember Krishna, never. But if he would have remained at home and served the Supreme Lord, was it in any way lesser than this one? Or just to exemplify the principle he left there?
To be separated from Krishna, to serve Krishna is glorious. And great devotees have done that. Always they have done that. And in the process, they become closer to Krishna. They have always become closer to Krishna in the process. Just like Yashoda, she could have served Lord Damodara by keeping him in his lap and feeding her breast milk to him. What great pleasure a mother would have than her son drinking milk from her breast. Even for a normal mundane mother, what great pleasure would be there than her son being in her lap and drinking the milk from her breast. But when that is not a normal child, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then to what extent would be the greatness of that pleasure? Yashoda gave up that pleasure to be separated from Krishna to serve Krishna. We see that consistently with devotees. Mahaprabhu told the Goswamis to go to Vrindavan, to be separated from him, and then to serve in separation. Mahaprabhu himself was a symbol of service in separation. Prabhupada actually left Radha Damodar and he went to a hellish place, which is America. And because he went to America in separation from Krishna, today you are sitting in the place where you are sitting, and I am sitting in the place where I am sitting. If Prabhupada had not gone, then it is dreadful to think what would have become to my life. I actually dread to think that possibility. If Prabhupada had not left Vrindavan, what would have happened to me? I shudder at that possibility when I think about it. So great devotees actually demonstrated the importance of separation from Krishna to serve Krishna. Kardama did the same thing. He actually demonstrated the importance of leaving Krishna to serve Krishna. And that's an important lesson. That's an important lesson. That we should not be attached. When the time comes, we should be ready to leave Krishna to serve Krishna. In whatever way Krishna calls us to do it, so we should be ready to do it. And that act of separation actually brings the Lord and the devotee much closer together than being there. It becomes, it actually brings the devotee much closer together to Krishna, because Krishna appreciates that austerity. Krishna appreciates that the devotee is doing something which he could have easily not done, just to please Krishna. So that's very important, very, very important, especially in preaching movement. The understanding of putting compassion for others in front of what is easily available to us in Krishna consciousness is very, very important. Jivadaya is very important. Very important. And that attracts Krishna. That austerity attracts Krishna. So one should be willing to do it. It's a very important lesson. Kardama leaving household life to take Vanaprastha is a very, very important lesson.
Thank you very much.
Have some comments in the chat. Srila Prabhupada left Vrindavan. Yes, we discussed that very same point. Showing love for the Creator while following his system of Varnashram. Yes, very good. It's a very nice point. Okay, another question?
Prabhuji, one more thing. In the class,
Yes,
in one of the discussions you were mentioning that a Madhyamadhikari, he is more interested, should be more interested in our practice than in our preaching. So
Yes, correct.
can you please elaborate this? What understanding I got is that the preaching is more effective when it is based on compassion. So now as a devotee grows, so the compassion naturally is awakening. So now
Yes.
compassion fully manifests as the stage when is Uttamadhikari. So that is, so is it, so in terms, when it comes to Madhyam stage, so is it the right understanding, or if you can elaborate it more in order to make
Yeah, simply out of his compassion for others, he becomes more. That's another aspect that he becomes more interested in his own practice. Because as a Kanishthadhikari, he is simply proud. He is thinking, I am the best teacher. I can give class to anybody. Just like I come as a teacher to all of you. I think that, oh, okay, Pune Brahmachari, okay, I can teach from Pune Brahmachari. What nonsense, stupidity. That I can think like this. All exalted souls sitting there, imbued in Bhagavatam. What can I offer? But still, because someone says, yeah, this is my authority, this is my teacher. He says, okay, come. But when a person is Kanishta, he is not able to see that his preaching is not very effective. Because his idea is not that whether preaching is effective or not. His idea is simply that, oh, I am a great preacher. I am great. I am preaching so many. I am preaching so many. I am doing so many programs. But when he actually starts appreciating, how does a Kanishta become Madhya? Simply by tolerating and appreciating the association of devotees, he becomes Madhya. First of all, he needs to tolerate. And second, when he tolerates, then he will be able to appreciate. He will become Madhya. So when he becomes Madhyamadhikari, he sees that, my preaching is not so effective. It's not working. Because I myself having bundle of defects. So I need to work on myself. If at all, if I should serve Krishna in this preaching mission, the first need is to actually to work on myself, not to work on others. So he becomes very, 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 very careful on how to purify himself, because he wants to serve Krishna, he wants to serve the devotees. He is no longer that same proud person who is thinking, "Arey, main kidhar bhi jaake kuch bhi kar sakta." He is not the same proud devotee. He becomes a very humble person. He thinks that, okay, now I need to learn, I need to work on myself. If I have to become instrument in Krishna's hands, then I need to work on myself. So it's not that he is less. He is not that he will not preach, but he understands that unless he works on himself, his preaching will not work. So his first priority is to work on himself, to improve himself, to pull himself to a proper situation, to consolidate his Krishna consciousness nicely. He is under no illusion that what is his position. He understands, okay, this is my position, I need to work on myself. So, therefore, his natural inclination is to actually become properly Krishna conscious. And as that inclination of becoming properly Krishna conscious becomes firm and solid by the proper association of Uttamadhikari, then naturally he also gets attracted to the ways and means of the Uttamadhikari. And he also becomes mature. He also matures continuously. So therefore, a Madhyamadhikari being more intent or being more interested in his proper conduct of Krishna consciousness, or in his own personal sadhana and Krishna consciousness, is simply another aspect of his interest in preaching. Another aspect of his interest in preaching. It's not that he is averse to preaching. He wants to preach properly, and finally he has figured out that if he has to preach, then then he himself has to have the conviction to present Krishna consciousness. It's not some speaking skill, or it's not some presentation skill, or it's not some PowerPoint exercise or something like that. You have figured out all those things by observing devotees who are very sincere and who are able to genuinely attract souls in Krishna consciousness. He has understood the fact that he needs to work on himself. So that's simply it's simply an aspect of his desire to serve the instruction of the spiritual master in order to preach properly. That's it. Should not be seen as being averse to preach. He's not averse to preach. His very nature, one of his nature is that he is compassionate to the innocent. So his compassion to the innocent and his maitre or his friendship with the devotees both teach him that he has to become serious in his own Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, things are not going to work. So it's inseparable.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much. Prabhuji, one more question.
Yes.
Prabhu, in this pastime, one of the very significant discussion is related to the Devhuti's desire. See, although she had the association of a very exalted personality, Kardam Muni, but she had some desire to have a child. Now, when it comes to our sadhaka's life, we have taken to Krishna consciousness, but deep within the heart, we have material desires. And these material desires are actually blockages in our Krishna consciousness. So, now the thing comes that there are material desires which may be as simple as eating samosas. So, now one may fulfill these material desires and go ahead. One may go ahead and now there may be other desires which are really blockages. Like for example, one may have sex desire. So for that, one has to, if one is a brahmachari, he has to change ashram. Now the question is that as a sadhaka, from sadhaka's perspective, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that why should I give, if someone wants Visay, why should I give him Visay? Whether I will give my own Ramit and let him forget the Vishay. Now, when it comes to sadhaka, in sadhaka, he finds it a great trouble. Now, what should be the thought process of practice? Na? The desires, when it comes to desires, how should we, it's simply, he should pray intensely, like for example, some simple desires may be there which naturally may fulfill and go ahead. But some other desires which are really blockages. And for that may be lingering in the heart. So can you comment about it? Like for example, in case of Devhuti, she had the desire and it got fulfilled through Kardam. So, and obviously, while fulfilling the desire, a plan of the Lord was also fulfilled in this way. And Supreme Lord himself came through Mother Devhuti. Now, how should we understand that? See, although Devhuti herself is a very exalted personality, now when it comes to us, we are somewhere different. So, through this whole discussion, how do we actually relate to this? Can you please elaborate?
So there are things which are to be learned from this. It's a very nice question. There are 2-3 lessons which are to be learned from this. First is that even if we have material desire, and even if we are intent in fulfilling that material desire, we should simply wait till Krishna fulfills it. We should not act in such a way that we fulfill that desire in a sinful manner. So that's a very important thing. That's the first consideration. That any material desire we have, which is big, small, medium, whatever it is, we should not try to fulfill that desire in a sinful manner. Esham Tantagatam Papam Jananam Punya Karmanam Ke Dvantamona Nirmukta Bhajante Mam Vritapataha. So we should wait. So that's the difference between Devhuti and Diti. You saw Diti, you saw Devhuti. Both of them had the desire to unite with their husband and have sons. Both of them had the same desire. Diti chose the path of sin, and Devahuti chose the path of devotion. Diti did not wait. Even though she was instructed to wait, she did not wait. She wanted it here, now, and that's it. There was no negotiation. She was told by her husband, this is sinful, don't do it, it's not the right time, you should not engage in sex at this time. But she did not listen. But Devahuti is completely different. She accepted a competent authority. She served that authority till that authority got pleased with her. And after serving that authority and pleasing that authority, she put forth her desire, and then she tried to fulfill her desire. And then Krishna fulfilled her desire in such a way that she actually got some very strong realizations from such desire. Diti did not get any such realization. She simply got more fear, more lamentation. That's it. She did not get anything more. But in contrast, Devahuti got the personality of Godhead. It's a big contrast, because the path which Diti chose is very different from the path which Devahuti chose. Both are women, both are dependent on their husbands, both had the same desire, both sought fulfillment of the same desire, both had husbands who are great and competent, because the same Kashyapa was able to give Vamanadev to Aditi. Both had competent husbands. Both had great personality as husbands. But Diti represents that disciple who chooses the path of sin simply to fulfill his desire. And Devahuti represents that disciple who is steadfast in Krishna consciousness, even while that desire is burning. That disciple. There's such a big difference. And when a devotee has some material desire, and desire is very strong, he may even pray to the Lord to actually fulfill his desire, but he should simply wait without taking the path of sin till the Lord fulfills the desire. If he waits like that for the Lord to fulfill the desire, then he will have great benefit. He will have great benefit in Krishna consciousness. Just like Devahuti, she reaped great benefit. The Lord will give very powerful realizations. Very powerful realizations. Either by fulfilling the desire in a legitimate manner, or by denying to fulfill that desire. In both cases, the Lord will give very powerful realizations. Same like the same thing with Dhruva. Dhruva's mother is such a great personality. Women in Bhagavatam are some of them are great people. One of them is Dhruva's mother. She's an ordinary lady. She's so yes, or she's so lamenting her position. But when it comes to what is the right thing to do, she actually instructs her son very firmly. She says that only go to Vishnu, don't go to anybody else. And she is very specifically saying that when Brahma is seeking the favor of Lakshmi, you don't go to Lakshmi, you go to Vishnu, because Lakshmi is seeking the favor of Vishnu. You go to Vishnu. You wait till Vishnu fulfills your desire. And you take all risk. 5-year-old boy, he's asking, okay, where to find Vishnu? She said, go to forest. You find Vishnu there. Hey, your mother, you're supposed to protect me. You're sending me to forest. Said, don't worry. Vishnu is like thousands of mothers like me. I'm just one mother, but Vishnu is like thousands of mothers like me. You go, you go, you go. So when encouraged by her, when Dhruva follows the path of dharma, in order to fulfill his desire, he gets very strong realizations. Very strong realizations. So that's the lesson we learn from Devahuti. Devahuti's whole pastime of having desire for sex life and fulfilling the desire. That's an important lesson. So as disciples or who have material desire, sometimes these desires may be very strong, very, very strong. But the first thing we should learn is that even though these desires are pushing us towards adharma or towards doing something sinful, we should never fall in the trap of doing something sinful. Never, ever fall in the trap. We should very patiently wait for Krishna to fulfill the desire. Very patiently, we should wait. In the process, we may take guidance, we may take counseling, we may talk to the spiritual master, we may talk to our Shiksha Gurus. So many things we may do, but we should patiently wait for Krishna to fulfill the desire. And why Krishna will not fulfill? Krishna will fulfill. But when Krishna fulfills, Krishna will fulfill in a way that is conducive to our progress in Krishna consciousness. That's what we should learn from Devahuti's pastime.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Very amazing answer. Thank you.
Okay. Another question. Okay, thank you very much. I think we can bring the session to an end. Thank you very much to all of you. Vanchakat Purukesha Kripa Sindhu Deva Chapitana Pavanebhyo Vishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Darshan Bhagavatam Ki Jai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna. We would like to thank His Grace Lila Prabhu for sharing such wonderful wisdom, his heart with us. We actually could see how much faith he carries in Srila Prabhupada's purports and his instructions. Such an in-depth understanding of different pastimes of Bhagavatam, very practical understanding of how to live by the instructions of Srila Prabhupada in the purports, and without any dilution, but still practical. Even especially in this section, we are studying certain things which are related to Grihastha life, and Prabhu has been a senior member of the Grihastha order, and then such a valuable wisdoms brought for that also. Plus, all the sections we could see how sincere approach of a genuine practitioner comes out in every discussion which he brings out, beyond all superficialities, beyond all externals, like how he shared about taking this course with a sincere intent to understand Bhagavatam, apply Bhagavatam. Very enlightening. He taught us also on many specific lessons dealing between Brahmanas and administrators, and the importance of mode of goodness in all devotees' life, and a disciple's duties. Very beautifully brought out the urgency that a disciple should have, the sincere attitude he should have. So his heart is actually full of respect for the Vaishnavas, for Srila Prabhupada, the whole parampara, and all devotees in ISKCON. He has such faith and gratitude. It is a great benediction for all of us that we could get his association, and we look forward to have more. He extended himself. He is thanking us for 2 more classes, but actually we thank him that he has extended himself to give 2 more sessions to ensure the sessions complete the section also. At the same time, we get his wisdom on all these wonderful purports of Srila Prabhupada. So we seek his blessings to follow the wonderful teachings of Srila Prabhupada in our lives, and we also seek his association in the future. Let's thank Prabhuji by one time loudly chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna!
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Sri Lila Prabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, thank you very much. Please give me permission to leave. Krishna will meet again.
Recording stopped.